The doctor's role is always to heal, whether that be to lend a helping hand, whether that be to comfort, whether that be to listen. I began my work with Holocaust survivors, and I've been interested in resiliency and the issue of how do people deal with trauma. And then I became interested in perpetrators and did a book on the Nazi doctors and the Nuremberg trials. Then I said, gee, I've been doing all this, why don't I work on the doctors, Jewish doctors? Try to put together in one place all the documents and all the histories, all the stories, all the interviews of Jewish doctors in the ghettos and camps during the Holocaust.
When I came to college, the reason I came to BU was to do medical ethics, and specifically Jewish medical ethics. And when I came to Dr. Grodin, I really didn't know very much about Jewish doctors and the Holocaust.
So we just started reading and talking to a lot of Holocaust scholars to try and find these texts because they are few and far between in English.
The physicians that were involved in the Holocaust did not write in general after the war. There was kind of a general conspiracy of silence. Many of them had a lot of guilt about what had happened and what went on during that time. And a lot of concern that people wouldn't understand the horrible decisions that they had to make under incredible circumstances.
Dr. Gisla Pearl was a gynecologist during the Holocaust in Auschwitz. I think her story was the most poignant for me.
We were given no medicines, no instruments. The fever-ridden patients shivered on the bare planks without blankets. Lice crawled over their bodies, carrying germs from one to the other.
Gisla Pearl was an incredibly resilient woman. She was able to do the abortions and even the killing of the newborns.
There was just no chance of survival, and the mother would be killed. So mothers that somehow hid their pregnancy until that point, she still aborted those children.
No one will ever know what it meant to me to destroy these babies. After years and years of medical practice, childbirth was still to me the most beautiful, the greatest miracle of nature. I love those newborn babies. Not as a doctor, but as a mother, and it was again and again my own child whom I killed to save the life of a woman.
You have zero resources. You know that the fact that you are trying to save somebody else makes you less likely to survive.
But she did what she had to do, and she was able to give hope in the place of no hope.
God was good to me. By a miracle, every one of these women recovered and was able to work, which, at least for a while, saved her life.
Physicians found themselves in every place that other Jews found themselves, whether it be in the ghettos, in the camps, but they had a special role to play and a special obligation to try to help rather than to be bystanders. There were hospitals in the Warsaw Ghetto. There was a medical school that was established, places where you can imagine they tried to maintain normalcy. And so the Warsaw Ghetto Hospital was a remarkable place where they had inadequate facilities, inadequate equipment, inadequate medications, and yet they tried to do whatever they could with whatever they had.
What they had was the ability to try and convince their patients that their lives would go on, that this was a stage.
People looked up to the doctors, and so if the doctors were able to carry on, then perhaps in some way they were able to carry on as well.
The letter that Dr. Elks wrote to his children after he had them smuggled out of the ghetto, I think, is the text that stands out most in my mind. Dr. Elkan Elks, he was the head of the Judenrat in Kovna, in the Kovna ghetto. A lot of doctors were placed in these positions of power within the ghettos especially. Whenever the Nazis were doing actions, so picking out people who would live and who would die, he would stand there for hours and hours and try and negotiate for each individual person to be kept alive.
One of the issues was who would be able to get back to work, because that was their life. If you couldn't work, you'd be killed. And so a decision had to be made.
I am the man who with my own eyes saw those about to die. With my own ears, I heard the awe-inspiring and terrible symphony, the weeping and screaming of 10,000 people, old and young, a scream that tore at the heart of heaven.
And so he wrote this letter to his children that he'd had smuggled out of the ghetto. He just writes about how the only thing that brings him and his wife any comfort as they're sitting starving to death in the ghetto is fantasizing about how his children are going to grow up and the fact that they will grow up and who they're going to be.
Our innermost desire is to see you again, to embrace you, and tell you once again how close we are to you and how our hearts beat as we remember you and see you before us. As we stand here at the very gates of hell with a knife poised at our necks, Only your images, dear ones, sustain us.
This letter was also smuggled out to his children that he never ever saw again.
For me, I think what was so compelling about this project was that specific medical ethics, how Jews during the Holocaust made these decisions, how their professions influenced them.
We can never, nor should we ever, hopefully be in the situation to have to make the kind of decisions they made. The most important thing that I've learned is that there is an incredible will to maintain one's dignity and one's sense of self.